the paradoxical unity of duality. How's that for a confusing sentence? The paradoxical unity of duality, existing within the oneness of duality. So it's almost less like it's coming from the concept of things like black and white, good and bad, these duality concepts that we live in. The great sentence was, beauty comes from a belief or concept that promotes judgment or duality. In other words, beauty is dependent on the idea of ugliness. Therefore, they cannot exist independently of each other. And so you would say like they depend on each other to exist. However, I would say it's more of a, they are not different than each other. They are each other. It is one thing rather than two separate things. So good and bad are not good versus bad, or good or bad, but rather good and bad. Good, bad. They are one. So it's less that they're dependent on each other to exist, but rather they are each other. Even when you say each other, it separates them. So it is. Instead of them depending on each other to exist, both of them are the same thing. Maybe that's a good way to word it. Good and bad are the same thing. One would argue, well, good things are not bad things. Bad things are surely different than good things from the way that we experience them, right? I mean, that's what I would think. Good things are different than bad things from the way that we experience them, because of a prevalent belief system or worldview that says that these things are separate. Before and after go with each other. So the future and the past are the same thing. It is always the now. But that's a too commonly used description, the now. I'm not sure if I like how bouncy this thing is. Almost like holding the camera or the phone with my hand here, but it's important to be hands-free while you're driving. In the paradoxical unity of duality, make sure we're safe here. Checking the crosswalks. Safe and unsafe are the same thing. It's weird to say. It's hard to wrap your mind around. I mean, it makes sense. It's like, oh yeah, you don't, unsafe things, in order for them to be what they are, there has to then also be safe things. But that's like separating them. Aren't they just things? Like, it was described like the plants, or the daffodil doesn't look at the daisy and think that it's prettier or uglier than it is. It just is. The judgment. I think that's what it comes back to. The paradoxical unity of duality is the judgment. That's funny how a lot of the things I talk about always come back to the judgment. It seems to be judgment and releasing judgment. Maybe we think of judgment as like, oh, I'm judging this person because but maybe it's more of the way we view the world. Like our worldview, our belief systems, the things that you have come to accept the way that the world is, good or bad, is just a judgment rather than accepting or allowing the nature of things to be as the way they are without labeling them. Maybe that's why what I'm talking about here is the second verse of the Tao Te Ching. Maybe that's why the first verse was about the non-label thing. It was like the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. The Tao that is nameless is the eternal Tao. The Tao that can be named is the mother of the 10,000 things, or the physical world, and the Tao that remains nameless is the origin of all things. Separate. That's different from, all the things that we have labeled in the 10,000 thing world, physical, you know what I mean? I hope this is making sense. So the labeling is the judgment. And being able to exist in oneness, in paradoxical unity among the world of duality, or among the physical world, being God natured, being of, you know what I mean? Like, maybe you don't. Being of all things, like if the plants are just as much God as we are, and same with the ants and the spiders and whatever else you don't like in this world, because of your labels, we are it and it is us, and it is harmonious. It's not that there is separateness. That's one of the huge secrets of this, mysticism, is understanding the unity, the paradoxical oneness, or this unity of all things, whilst being among the world of duality. I'll leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. Seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment. Seek to discover the hidden mysteries of our reality and the hidden wisdom of the ages. Seek to better the world, and the way we better the world is by bettering ourselves. So that way we create an example. You can teach a man to fish, or you can give a man a fish. There's a huge difference. But if you're not going to give a man a fish or teach a man to fish, you can at least be a really good fisherman in view of others who aren't quite the best fishermen. And so they might catch on to a thing or two. Wonderful. Wonderful paradox. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back in the future with more interesting topics to throw your way.